You think you know what ease is, but when someone says that word near a Scorpio, something inside you contracts before you even understand why. It's not exactly distrust. It's something older than that. It's your body remembering all the times relief came disguised as a trap, because you learned early on that when everything becomes too easy, it's time to pay extra attention. And it's funny, because that's exactly the belief that's about to be dismantled. There's a cycle opening now, a 15-year cycle, and it doesn't ask for your vigilance. It asks for the opposite. It asks you to let go of a wheel you've been holding alone for so long that you've forgotten it can also turn without your strength. This should be good news. And it is, but for a Scorpio, good news without effort sounds almost like an invitation to distrust, because if it costs nothing, what is it really worth? This question is the beginning of everything I need to show you. You've spent your whole life confusing intensity with value. If it hurt, it was real. If it was earned through bloodshed, it was deserved. If it came easily, it tastes suspicious. No one taught you this with words, but your nervous system learned it on its own, observing, testing, surviving. And the problem isn't that this logic is wrong in every context. The problem is that it's become the only filter through which you process everything life offers you, including rest, including love that doesn't require proof, including now this cycle. Pluto doesn't move fast. He doesn't make a surface drama. He doesn't shout. He doesn't give polite advance warning. He reorganizes from below, at the roots, in what you didn't even know you were holding. And when he finally shifts position, after years of pushing you deeper into the underground, something opens up that isn't luck. It's a consequence. It's the direct result of everything you went through alone, in the dark, without applause, without anyone seeing the magnitude of what was being rebuilt inside. You're not about to receive a free gift. You're about to reap what you sowed when no one was looking. But still, something inside you will resist believing it, because accepting that things can now be lighter means admitting that perhaps you no longer need to carry so much weight to feel safe. And if you no longer need to carry weight, who are you without it? This question bothers you more than any external difficulty ever has, because the difficulty for you has become part of your identity. It has become a test of strength, and no one easily lets go of a test of strength, even when it has served its purpose long ago. There's a difference between surviving and thriving, and Scorpio knows the first word by heart. The second is still foreign. You know how to rebuild yourself after collapse. You know how to transform betrayal into wisdom. You know how to get through the end of everything and emerge on the other side unrecognizable and stronger. This has been proven repeatedly over years that demanded more from you than should have been demanded of anyone. But to flourish without first having to bleed for it, that's a territory your body doesn't yet know how to inhabit without distrust. And that's exactly where this cycle begins to operate, not taking away the depth that makes you who you are. It only takes away the habit of turning everything into a battle to make it worthwhile. Because the truth that nobody told you is that you can maintain the depth, the instinct, the perception that sees what others pretend not to see, and still walk for 15 years without needing to prove it through pain. The question remains, are you going to let them? It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The 12 Laws of the Universe, that help this zodiac sign overcome spiritual envy. Doesn't talk about luck, and it doesn't promise cheap shortcuts. It talks about something any Scorpio recognizes in the first paragraph, the courage to go deep where most stop at the surface. Because there is a silent spiritual envy that settles in precisely when a good cycle opens up for you, coming from those who have never traversed the subterranean depths you have, and who try to pull you back into the distrust that always protected you, but now only hinders you. You are processing this right now, feeling your body hesitate between believing and protecting itself, between opening your hand and squeezing tighter. This discomfort that is still alive inside you is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something real has just touched a place you have kept closed for years. And it is precisely in this state, still awake, still sensitive, that acting has more power than acting later, when the mind has already rationalized everything and closed the door again. The link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. While that's up to you, I'll leave you with the question to answer in the comments. When was the last time something good happened in your life and the first thing you felt was distrust? Because this distrust has an origin, and it wasn't something you started with. She was born at a specific moment, often so long ago that you don't even remember the scene clearly, only the feeling. Someone promised security and delivered abandonment. Someone promised love and demanded a price you only understood years later. And your system, brilliant and protective, did what every Scorpio system does better than any other sign of the zodiac. It learned the pattern and built a fortress around it so that it would never catch you off guard again. The problem with a fortress is that it can't distinguish between the enemy that once wounded you and the opportunity knocking at the door today. It treats both in exactly the same way, with suspicion, with tests, with this almost automatic need to find the crack before it appears on its own, because finding it first hurts less than being caught off guard. And you did this with people. You tested loyalties until they broke, just to confirm what you already suspected. You did this with opportunities, postponing, questioning, searching for the hidden flaw until the opportunity grew tired of waiting and left. And now, without realizing it, you are about to do this with an entire 15-year cycle, testing it until it seems familiar enough to fit within your distrust, even if it means reducing your own luck to the size of your fear. There's a word that astrologers rarely use, but it perfectly describes what Pluto is doing to you right now: authority. Not the authority you exert over others. You already master that too well. The authority you need to exert over your own internal narrative, consciously deciding that the story that brought you here doesn't need to continue writing for the next 15 years. This requires something that Scorpio instinctively despises: vulnerability without complete control over the outcome. Because every time you allow yourself to trust without guarantees, an old part of you screams that this is madness, that this is how people get hurt, that it is precisely this naivete that separates those who survive from those who are destroyed. But this voice, however real it may seem, is responding to a danger that no longer exists in the same proportion. You've just recognized a voice within you that confuses past danger with present risk, and that changes everything, because now you can choose not to blindly obey it. The 12 laws of the universe that help this zodiac sign overcome spiritual envy addresses exactly this point: how to recognize when protection has become imprisonment, and how to use your own Scorpio intensity to expand, not just defend. It's a book for those who are tired of winning alone in the dark. The last copies are running out, and this content may be taken down at any time. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's something no one has told you about this 15-year cycle. It won't ask you to become someone else. It will ask you to stop pretending that the mask of invulnerability is who you really are. Because behind all the calculated coldness, behind the strategic silence, behind the ability to never let anyone see how much you feel, there is someone who feels too much all the time and who has only learned to hide it so well that sometimes even you don't remember you're hiding it. This is the part that hurts to admit. You're not cold. You're too intense for the world that taught you that feeling is weakness. And so you built, brick by brick, a version of yourself capable of getting through anything without seeming shaken, because seeming shaken someday cost you too much. But what has sustained you over the past few years isn't necessarily what will carry you through the next 15. There's a huge difference between the strength needed to survive the winter and the strength needed to flourish in the spring. And most people never learn how to make that transition because no one teaches you how to disarm yourself without feeling exposed. You'll notice this in small moments throughout this cycle. A proposal that arrives without you having to chase after it tooth and nail. A bond that deepens without you needing to test your loyalty to the limit. A financial turnaround that doesn't stem from a crisis, but from a belated recognition of your own worth, and each of these scenes will seem at first almost too wrong to be true. It is at this exact moment that the choice is repeated, to distrust until destruction, as always, or to allow, even with the body trembling with discomfort, that this time it be different. You've just named the choice that most defines you, to destroy out of fear or to allow despite fear, and it's precisely at this turning point that it makes sense to have something solid to anchor yourself to, something that doesn't ask you to be less intense, but teaches you to direct that intensity towards your own transformation. The 12 laws of the universe that help this zodiac sign overcome spiritual envy exist for this exact moment, when the depth that has always been your weapon needs to become your refuge as well. Stock is running out, and access may be terminated without notice. The link is in the first pinned comment. There's a paradox at the heart of all this, and it's the kind of truth that only makes sense after you stop resisting it. You've spent your life believing you needed to earn every good thing through suffering, as if the universe exacted a toll in pain before releasing any reward. But suffering was never the price. It was just the path you knew, because it was the only one you were taught to walk. This 15-year cycle isn't testing you to see if you're strong enough. You've already proven that repeatedly, in ways most people will never understand, because they never needed to. What this cycle is doing is inviting you to discover a different, quieter, rarer strength. The strength to receive without feeling indebted, to trust without demanding proof beforehand, to let life be generous to you without needing to turn that generosity into suspicion. This doesn't make you any less of a Scorpio. On the contrary, only a Scorpio who has already visited rock bottom, who has rebuilt themselves from the ashes more than once, has enough courage to attempt something as uncomfortable as trusting in ease. Because those who have never truly suffered fear the void, but those who have already faced the worst know that there is something on the other side of fear that is also worth facing. You've just touched on a paradox that most people never resolve. The force that has saved you may not be the same force that will expand you. The 12 laws of the universe that help this zodiac sign overcome spiritual envy was written with precisely this kind of turning point in mind, when it's time to transform the resistance that protected you into conscious openness without losing the depth that makes you who you are. This content may be taken down soon, and remaining copies are running out fast. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's a curious detail about how Scorpio deals with its own power, and it's this: you rarely use all the strength you have. You always save part of it as a strategic reserve, as if at some point you might need it for a war that hasn't yet arrived. And for a good part of your life, this worked. Saving strength is survival when the environment is hostile. But what happens when the environment changes and you continue saving strength for a war that's already over? You become someone too powerful for the small life you build out of caution. Someone capable of rebuilding entire empires, but who sometimes hesitates to ask for a raise, to declare a feeling, to occupy the space that is already rightfully yours, simply because occupying space at some point attracted attack. And the attack didn't always come from outside. Sometimes it came from within your own family, your own circle of friends, from people who should have celebrated your brilliance and instead tried to extinguish it with a comment here, a comparison there, envy disguised as well-intentioned advice. This leaves a mark, And the most common mark isn't anger, although anger also exists. The most common mark is the habit of preemptively shrinking back, of shining only enough not to bother others, of hiding one's own achievements until it becomes impossible to hide them any longer. You learn to fear your own success because at some point, success brought with it people wanting to bring you down. But this 15-year cycle doesn't call for smallness. It demands just the opposite. It confronts you with the most uncomfortable question of all. What would you do if you knew with absolute certainty that no one would try to destroy you for shining too brightly this time? The answer to that question is the map of everything you haven't yet allowed yourself to experience. There's a scene that repeats itself in the life of almost every Scorpio, silent, almost invisible to outsiders. It's the moment when someone offers genuine help without ulterior motives, and you feel the immediate urge to refuse, even if you need it, even if you want to accept it. Because accepting help means, in your oldest internal vocabulary, admitting weakness. And weakness, for you, has always been dangerous. Weakness is what predators look for first. But most people around you aren't predators. Most are just trying, in the imperfect way they can, to be present. And every time you reflexively refuse that, you're not just protecting yourself. You're confirming to your own nervous system that the world remains the hostile place it decided years ago it would always be. This cycle asks you to test a new hypothesis. What if the world, this time, has truly changed around you? What if the people arriving now are not echoes of those who came before? You won't know the answer by looking from afar, analyzing, predicting every move before it happens, the way you always have. You'll only know by living, taking risks, allowing someone to get close enough to prove, with time, that perhaps this time it will be different. There's one last layer to all of this that needs to be said bluntly. You don't need to become light-hearted to deserve ease. You don't need to stop being intense, mysterious, profound, full of layers that take years for someone to decipher. The invitation was never to stop being who you are. It was to stop using who you are as an excuse to remain at war with a life that is already, silently, trying to reward you. And in the end, what remains isn't a promise that everything will be easy from now on. It's a quieter, more beautiful invitation than that. An invitation to discover that you can continue being who you've always been. Deep, intense, capable of seeing what no one else sees, without needing each good chapter of your life to begin with a scar. Scorpio was never meant to live on the surface. But perhaps for the first time in 15 years, you can dive deep into something good, without searching for the false bottom that will never be there. The water that transforms you doesn't always have to be cold. Sometimes it's just waiting for you to stop testing it, to feel how warm it already is. Think of each winter you've already weathered alone, with no one showing you the way, learning by instinct where to step among your own ruins. That gave you something that no course, no advice, and no amount of outside luck could have given you. The silent certainty that you can survive anything. That certainty has always been your foundation. But for a long time, it was also your prison, because a person who knows how to survive any winter ends up, without realizing it, seeking out winters just to prove again that they can. This cycle won't take that strength away from you. It's definitely yours, forever, engraved in every layer you've traversed. What it offers is something else, rarer, almost foreign to your body at first. The chance to rest within your own strength, instead of needing to reaffirm it with each new battle. There's a difference between being a warrior out of necessity and consciously choosing to be one when war no longer serves any purpose. Perhaps the most beautiful part of this transformation isn't what will come from the outside. The money, the connections, the doors that open without you having to force them open. The most beautiful part is what will change inside, slowly, almost without warning. One day you'll realize you've stopped expecting betrayal behind every kindness. You'll realize you can receive a compliment without looking for the hidden splinter. You'll realize that the silence around you for the first time in a long time isn't the calm before the storm, but simply true peace without fine print. This is the true power of Scorpio, something rarely mentioned about the sign. It's not the ability to destroy and be reborn repeatedly. It's the even greater courage to allow, at least once, rebirth to happen without anything needing to die first. You've already proven, more than enough, that you can rebuild yourself from the ashes. Now life is offering you something that no other phase has offered you with this intensity. The chance to flourish without needing to burn first. And if you allow it, even with your body still wary, even with your mind still wondering where the trick is, you'll discover there is no trick. There is only, finally, the time to harvest.